The Convenience Store by the Sea by Sonoko Machida. Translated by Bruno Navasky. Chapter 3. A Melancholy Strawberry Parfait. The high-pitched shriek from the garden was unmistakable. No, no, no. I've just about had it. Your father, he doesn't get it at all. They won't grow like this. Michio's voice was growing more heated by the moment, so with a sigh, Azusa closed her book and stuck her head out through the patio door. What's the matter, Mother? Oh, Azusa, listen to me. Yesterday, your father wanted to help in the garden, right? So I asked him to plant the beds, but he's being so careless. Michio wore a pink gardening smock, and the round face under her wide-brimmed straw hat became even rounder as she pouted. Look, she said, pointing with the tip of her trowel towards her carefully tended garden plot. The plot was neatly divided into sections for flowers, vegetables, and herbs. Michio was pointing at the herbs. It looked like there were a great variety planted there, but Azusa couldn't tell one from another. Look as she might, she had no idea what was wrong. Careless, you said? Did he forget to cover them with dirt or something? Azusa didn't see any exposed roots, but she couldn't think of any other reason. Michio raised her volume as if she had utterly lost her patience and said, "It's about compatibility, of course. Isn't it obvious? I taught you about compatibility in herbs, didn't I, Azusa? Just look at the positioning of the lemon balm and rosemary here. It's just like your father. He says leave it to me, I'll take care of it, but what was he thinking?" Michio was talking as if she couldn't believe her eyes, but Azusa still didn't see the problem. She was about to ask again, but she thought better of it and stopped. It would just fan the flames of her mother's fury. When Michio's horticultural pursuits were treated lightly, her anger could flare up instantly, without warning. Sparks flew in all directions, and Azusa had been the victim of secondhand burns this way more than once in the past. But she had to say something. "Dad's a total mess," she blurted out. "It really sucks, doesn't it?" Then she fled to her room. Azusa flopped down on her bed and took up her phone. As she lay there on the bed, she tried searching for herb compatibility on the phone. It's about preferred growing conditions, maybe? Apparently herbs had preferences. They liked different conditions, dry or damp, sunny or shady, and if you planted things with different preferences together, they might wither or fail to grow properly. Right, of course, so that was it. Azusa kept scrolling aimlessly, then paused. Wow, mint is intense. She had landed on a feature titled Dangerous Herbs. Mint is a herb that grows with excessive vigor. It can cause great trouble when planted together with other species. If not controlled properly, it may overrun neighboring herbs, leaving only mint in the pot. Moreover, when planted in the ground, its rhizomes spread densely, rapidly expanding its breeding area. She murmured to herself and jumped to a different site. There was a dramatic story about how someone had planted mint in their garden. It had overrun the gardens next door and caused trouble in the neighborhood. It was known, somehow, that while mint had amazing benefits, including possible uses as an insect repellent, antibiotic, and anti-inflammatory, it was also a difficult plant to manage. When Azusa pictured mint in her mind's eye, she imagined it perched daintily atop a slice of cake, or else on a bowl of ice cream. It was a leaf with an assertive, breezy flavor that completely cleared her palate. Also, her toothpaste tasted like dried mint. It made sense to her that with a presence like that, it would also have a strong life force. Azusa exited the browser and returned to the lock screen on her phone. The image there was a photo of Azusa striking a pose in front of a tulip field, together with another girl, the two of them leaning cozily in towards each other. She gazed at the pretty face next to hers. It's a little like Mizuki. Mizuki Mirai did everything properly. Nothing she said was ever wrong, and sometimes she even corrected the teacher. Her grades were always at the top of the class, and she was the star of the volleyball team. Every semester, she was assigned some important role at school. She was a central figure in the class. Whether it was the annual talent show, the music recital, or some other event, everything always went well, so long as they did what she said. So everyone deferred to her. Mizuki wielded immense influence over the top class in middle school, which was also Azusa's. Mizuki is like mint, Azusa thought. Next, Azusa thought of another classmate, Nayuta Taguchi. If Mizuki is mint, then what is Nayuta? Will she be overrun by mint? Or will she and mint be able to coexist as friends? No, Azusa thought, probably neither one. Those thick eyebrows and dark eyes were too willful to be affected by mint in any way. Yeah, it'll be okay. Because that girl, she's strong. Talking to herself, she felt a knot form in the pit of her stomach. It was a sudden pain she had been experiencing frequently for a while now. Clutching her stomach, she curled up like one of the rhinoceros beetle grubs they found sometimes in the garden. In her mind's eye, she saw Mizuki's face, Nayuta's face, and then a third face, a man's kind face. She shook her head, saying no, no. The pain persisted for a surprisingly long time, and as Azusa lay there in its grip, she seemed almost about to cry. I'm no good, she thought. Before entering the classroom, Azusa took a deep breath. Then she forced her mouth into a smile and, in a small voice, said, okay. She held the smile in place. It was a little ritual Azusa performed daily. She opened the door. Some of her classmates had arrived early and looked over at her. For a second her legs froze, but then she looked around and saw smiles on everyone's faces. She breathed a sigh of relief. Morning. Good morning, Azusa. Several of the girls had formed a circle at the front of the classroom by the window. In the center of it was Mizuki. With her lovely eyes set in a perfect oval face, she looked somehow more grown up than the other students. Her glossy black hair was tied back, and her long, elegant lines were reminiscent of the actresses that performed the male roles at the Takarazuka Theater in Tokyo. She seemed a class apart from the girls around her. Azusa remembered the article she had read on her phone yesterday. No doubt about it, Mizuki was like mint. Morning, Mizuki. Hey, how was yesterday's virtual world concert? In response to Azusa's question, Mizuki's face lit up. It was so good. The set list was awesome. Virtual World was an alternative band that had recently become popular. Its members played hard rock music while wearing grungy rabbit costumes, and they wielded an outsized influence over middle and high school students. Mizuki, a huge fan of the band, was no exception. Oh, Mizuki, that's so great. A flutter ran through the other girls in the group. You got tickets? It really was great, Mizuki responded, a little boastfully. Kanako miraculously managed to get hold of 2 tickets, so she took me. I already wish I could turn back time to yesterday. Right, Kanako? Mizuki put her hand on Kanako's shoulder as she spoke, while Kanako nodded happily beside her. It was literally the best thing ever. Actually, at the end I got so excited that I started hugging Mizuki. It's true. And Kanako was crying like crazy too, weren't you? I was, because it was totally intense. As Kanako was nattering away with Mizuki, she flashed a quick glance at Azusa. Azusa pretended not to notice the meaningful look and responded innocently, "That's great, really." But behind her fixed smile, she thought that Kanako was going to be trouble. Azusa had never heard anything about Kanako being a fan of Virtual World, so she must have got the tickets just for Mizuki, she was sure. Oh, next time I want to go with Azusa. She's a huge fan of Virtual World too, right? Kanako's expression clouded as Mizuki spoke. Without letting her smile drop, Azusa nodded. Sure. Definitely, let's go. That would be so much fun. Kanako looked at Azusa again, her gaze now turning ugly. Disregarding this as well, Azusa made her way to her own seat at the back of the classroom, farthest from the window. Kanako was obsessed with Mizuki and was always at her side. And she hated Azusa, who was Mizuki's childhood friend. Kanako wants to take my place, thought Azusa. Mizuki's special friendship meant security in the classroom, throughout the entire grade, really. And Kanako was always worrying about what everyone else thought. I'm sure she can't help but be jealous of my position. She'll use tickets or anything she can get her hands on to try to replace me. But I don't think it'll be that easy. Azusa and Mizuki had been friends forever. Their mothers were close friends from high school. When she looked at the old photos, Mizuki was always there, standing right beside Azusa in every one. Mizuki was born 9 months earlier, so there were photos of the two of them from the very day Azusa was born. They were literally together from birth. Azusa was small and slow to mature, often lagging behind the other children. They wouldn't let her play tag with them and refused to play house with her as well. She was always in tears about this or that. Mizuki, on the other hand, was a natural leader. That was probably why it fell to Mizuki to look out for her, always taking charge for as long as Azusa could remember. Her mother, Michio, too, constantly told her, "Stay close to Mizuki. Listen to what she says." So she never thought it was strange to have Mizuki telling her what to do. For Azusa, Mizuki's authority had been absolute. Or so Azusa thought, transferring her pen case and textbook from her book bag to her desk drawer. Their mothers were still close and didn't hesitate to let people know they were lifelong friends. They looked forward to handing down that friendship to their daughters. When the two women got all starry-eyed and talked about passing the torch to the next generation, Mizuki always gave an exasperated laugh and said, "Our friendship and your friendship are 2 different things. Don't mix them up. I care for Azusa regardless of how you feel. Because we're perfectly compatible, that's why." Azusa always nodded at that point, but the truth was she thought their mothers were right. The two of them would never come close to their parents' friendship. If they hadn't been childhood friends, they probably wouldn't even be as close as they were now. Mizuki liked to say they were compatible, but the truth was their favorite things, their personalities, the way they spent their free time, these were all completely different. To be honest, Azusa didn't even like Virtual World all that much either. The pack of expressionless rabbits were creepy, and the music, well, mostly it was just loud. But Mizuki's authority was absolute, so she couldn't say that. She had to find a way to like them or else. So, will I stay in Mizuki's shadow forever, Azusa thought, and keep on living the way she tells me to? Is that okay? The mood in the classroom shifted, and Azusa lifted her head. Nayuta had just entered the classroom. In her gym top with thick black hair cropped short, she looked at first glance like a boy. She took a seat in the center of the classroom without speaking to anyone. She's not in her school uniform. Again. Overhearing Kanako's comment, Azusa shifted her gaze back to the group of girls by Mizuki, now all wearing looks of stern disapproval. Why isn't the teacher warning her? She's breaking the rules. It wasn't the first time Azusa had heard such loud, tactless remarks. Nayuta would come to school in her gym clothes, not a uniform. Someone in Mizuki's entourage would see her and start going on about uniform this, uniform that, like a broken record until Mizuki chided them. Today again, Mizuki said, "Come on, guys," settling them down. I told you, it's not a violation. She's wearing official school gym clothes, so basically it's fine. According to school regulations, students were allowed to wear designated gym clothes to school, except on days with special events, when they had to wear their uniforms. Azusa hadn't known that until recently. She knew it now, of course, because of Nayuta. There had been something funny going on with Nayuta since March or around then. She cut her waist-length hair short and started wearing gym clothes instead of a blazer. She came to school late, left early, and was frequently absent. She had never been the most social student, but lately she had taken it to the extreme, rejecting even the most innocent overtures. When asked what was wrong or why, she insisted that it was nothing. At first, Mizuki and her crowd were worried about her, but Nayuta's stubborn refusal to tell them what was going on annoyed them, so that now, 2 months later, they were mostly just critical. It was because she disrupted the class, they said, and made everyone worry with absolutely no explanation. Their teacher said nothing about it, and he must have had his reasons. Azusa gazed at Nayuta's back, in the chair diagonally in front of her. Nayuta had probably heard Kanako talking about her, but she looked completely indifferent, not reacting in the slightest. Azusa wished she could ask her where that strength came from. She didn't care about the hair or the uniform. She just wanted to know how Nayuta was strong enough to keep looking straight ahead under those circumstances. I mean, is she ignoring us? Kanako said in a scandalized voice. Not even a good morning. She's the worst. Listening to Kanako put Azusa's teeth on edge. Wasn't it strange that Kanako was so sure she deserved a greeting? If greetings were important to her, she should be the first to speak. It's true, isn't it? Who does she think she is? Over here. Look at us, pretty please. The girls around Mizuki picked up the chant, while another group, instead of trying to put a stop to it, looked on, smirking. A boy in the class muttered under his breath, "Girls are trouble." "Don't worry about it, everyone," Mizuki said with a sigh. "If she doesn't want to do it, you can't force her." "Mizuki, you're too nice," Kanako replied with a petulant look. "She's acting like she's above us. But now people might think we're ganging up on her." "It's not true, but we don't want anyone to get the wrong idea, do we?" Mizuki put on a forced smile, while Kanako and the others glared at the boy who let the comment slip. Watching this, Azusa was annoyed all the same. Unconsciously, she clenched her hands into fists. Mizuki also thinks that she should be the one to be greeted first. She thinks that's only right. "Azusa, you're spacing out. Are you okay?" At the sudden voice, Azusa came to her senses. She looked up and Mizuki had somehow slipped out of her circle of friends and was standing next to her. "Are you okay?" "You were staring at Taguchi." "Oh? I was just looking. I don't know why." She hadn't been aware that Mizuki was watching her, so she was a little flustered. "Don't act like you're interested in her," Mizuki said. "She wants to be in our circle, and she's got her eye on you. She wants to use you as a way to get in with us. If that happens, I know you'll be sorry so." Surprised, but trying not to let it show, Azusa quietly asked, "You don't want to include her?" To that, Mizuki replied, "Isn't it obvious?" as if shocked. "That's the kind of naivete that she's trying to take advantage of, Azusa. Look, we've held out a hand to her so many times, but she's always the one to reject us, isn't she? And that hurts. It's important that you understand that." Mizuki was speaking loud enough that Nayuta could surely hear. "Well, I know you're the kind of girl who will say the right thing when the time comes, aren't you, Azusa?" She smiled. Listening to her, Azusa knew her face was hardening. Her stomach twisted, and she placed her hand there. It hurt. It hurt. "I know you'll be okay, Azusa, but I can't help worrying." "You understand." "Oh, okay. Anyway, don't waste your time worrying about her. You're just so nice that you're easy to take advantage of. Right?" Would she listen to Mizuki and live the way she was told? Did she truly think that was the right thing to do? Her stomach was in knots again, but she nodded slowly. She nodded and thought to herself, "Is this really right?" Oh, her stomach hurt so much. Azusa's guilty pleasure on Tuesdays was an evening trip to the convenience store. It was her day off from Juku, and it was also the night her mother Michio worked late at her part-time job. She changed her clothes hurriedly and, grabbing her purse, hopped on her bicycle. Her destination was the Golden Villa Tenderness branch. En route, she passed a convenience store a 3-minute walk from her home, and another one that was a 10-minute bike ride. This one was a 20-minute ride, but there was a reason for that. She couldn't let anyone know where she was going. Azusa took after her mother, so as one might expect, she shared Michio's round face and a slight tendency towards chubbiness. Because she also had fair skin, the local boys teased her when she was little, calling her daifuku, sweet rice dumpling. Mizuki would stand up for her and offer words of consolation. "Azusa, you're not fat. Really, not at all." But several months ago that all changed, thanks to Michio. Azusa is looking a little heavy compared to you, Mizuki. Dear, Azusa's mother had remarked to Mizuki. Can you help make sure she doesn't snack between meals? Leave it to me, said Mizuki. It was no secret Azusa liked sweets. Maybe she had been eating too many of them? Thus began Mizuki's strict supervision of her diet. Azusa's mother watched her like a hawk at home, and Mizuki attended the same juku after school, so Azusa was under constant surveillance everywhere. Tuesday evening was her sole chance to escape and sample her beloved convenience store treats to her heart's delight, free from both sets of eyes. Furthermore, the Golden Villa Tenderness offered a dine-in space next to the store. It was a perfectly clean, comfortable place. And if she ate everything there, she didn't need to worry about bringing home evidence of between-meal snacks. For Azusa, it was ideal. As the familiar sign came into view, Azusa's pedaling legs pumped harder. Yes, it was there. The spring strawberry cake parfait. She left her bike in the rack and entered the store. A melody played as she went through the door, and a man at the checkout counter called out mildly, "Welcome." Azusa headed without hesitation to the sweet section. Got it. Finding the sought-after treasure, Azusa called out in happy triumph. She had been waiting forever in anticipation of the spring special, a strawberry shortcake parfait, and there they were, arranged neatly on the shelf right in front of her. And next to them were fresh-baked strawberry dorayaki, sweet and spongy pancakes sandwiched together with cream and strawberries that had also been on her list. Without hesitation, she claimed one of each and moved to the beverage section. She picked up a bottle of her favorite flavored milk and headed to the register. The store manager was standing at the register with an odd smile on his face. The man gave her an itchy feeling down her spine when they stood close. Azusa was used to it at this point, but at first the manager's strange aura had felt so oppressive she avoided the register when he was there. Mizuki would probably tell her she shouldn't frequent a place run by such a suspicious man, Azusa thought idly as she completed her checkout. Actually, Mizuki would more likely scold her for being in a store like this at all. She'd probably report it to Michio, and Azusa's allowance would be docked. She'd been very careful so far not to let that happen. She took her bag and headed through the connecting door to the dine-in space. An elementary school boy was sitting at the corner of one of the four-person tables, immersed in a handheld video game. There was a half-eaten portion of yakisoba noodles on the table. Azusa took a seat at the counter, away from the boy, and removing her long-anticipated sweets from the bag, she set them in front of her. She wavered between them just a little, then picked up the dorayaki. Between the spongy pancakes was a single, perfect strawberry, large and red, nestled in pink cream and glossy, sweet red bean paste. She could feel the weight of it in her hand, and the contrasting colors peeking out from the opening of the pocket made her glow with joy. She took a large, enthusiastic bite. The fluffy sponge, the fresh cream, and the mild, tender red beans merged into a single, deep sweetness. Behind that, the fresh tartness of the ripe local strawberry tickled her senses. Azusa closed her eyes in delight. Oh, so delicious. Happiness. Azusa's guilty pleasure came just once a week. She wouldn't trade it for anything. She finished off the dorayaki dreamily and drank her flavored milk. Juice and sweet drinks had also been forbidden, so it was extra good. She let out a single, sweet sigh, then reached for the main course, her cake parfait. She opened the plastic lid of the transparent cup and then spent a while just looking at it. The cake was diced and soaked in strawberry juice. It was submerged in layers of fresh cream and strawberry sauce, with 3 large, perfect local strawberries enshrined atop the parfait, dusted with powdered sugar like a fine sprinkling of snow. Over that, there was a garnish of chopped pistachio nuts. It was adorable to the eye, but also seemed to be begging her to eat it. Azusa looked at it, then pulled out her phone and took a photo of the parfait. It would be good to look at when she was really craving something sweet. She continued to sip her milk, all the while taking photos of the parfait from a variety of angles. Finally, she started to eat. The strawberries were at once gently sweet and brightly tart. She was spellbound. Then, as if from a great distance, she was returned to the world by the sound of someone entering the dine-in space from the store. She glanced over. "Oh," she said. The person who had just entered was none other than her classmate Nayuta, still clad in gym clothes. Nayuta noticed Azusa and in turn replied, "Oh. Hi." Yeah. Any other classmate would probably have sat down next to Azusa. But Nayuta looked around the room, then settled herself into a seat at the opposite end of the counter. As if she had totally forgotten that Azusa was there, she opened a can of unsweetened coffee and took several large swallows. She seemed so grown up, Azusa couldn't help looking at her. Nayuta exhaled and put down the can, then noticed Azusa was watching her. "What?" she said. "No, That's amazing," Azusa replied. "I can't drink coffee." Azusa wasn't sure of the right thing to say, so instead she said the first thing that popped into her head. "I can't drink it without milk and sugar. I like coffee jellies, though, and mocha ice cream." Nayuta gave her a curious look, then laughed. "Seems like you like the sweet stuff." Her gaze drifted to the parfait and flavored milk, and Azusa gave a start. "Oh, don't tell anyone about that." Her voice came out louder than she had intended, and the boy broke contact from his game to look over at her. Nayuta stared at her blankly. "I'd rather you didn't talk about it." That I was here, eating sweets." Sweets were forbidden, Azusa falteringly explained, and Nayuta asked, "Why?" Her tone was so short and sharp that Azusa was at a loss for words, but Nayuta continued. "Did the doctor say you can't?" "Oh no, nothing like that. It's because I'm fat. Mother says I shouldn't have snacks." She cringed in embarrassment to hear herself say it. She lowered her gaze, but Nayuta said flatly, "That's just crazy." Azusa looked up again. Her classmate smiled at her. "If that's how it is, I won't tell anyone, and you can eat whatever you want. But Higaki, you're not fat." Nayuta was looking at Azusa's body as she spoke. "I guess it might seem that way, because your figure has curves." She spoke with simple candor, and it made Azusa feel a little better. She herself was well aware that her weight was normal for her age. Compared with Mizuki and her model's body, Azusa might seem heavy, but nobody would call her overweight. "Thank you. There's nothing to thank me for." Oh, and don't worry, I won't tell Mirai either. As Nayuta spoke, Azusa's stomach started to hurt again. Mizuki, I mean. Should I apologize? I never tried to stop Mizuki and her crowd from saying what they did, not even once. The words got stuck in her throat. But as Azusa struggled to say what she was thinking, Nayuta's expression took on a bored look. She picked up her can and drank the remaining leftover coffee. It doesn't matter. None of it makes any difference. Azusa was surprised at how Nayuta spoke, as if she were trying to push her away. Her coffee finished, Nayuta stood. She tossed the can in the rubbish bin. Then she turned round. I don't care what they say. There are more important things to do than worry about what other people think. I don't want to be sorry later that I missed something really important because I was focused on things that didn't matter. Nayuta said this in a firm voice and then she left. She came into view again a little later, riding away on a bicycle. As Azusa watched her go, she mulled over what Nayuta had said. Am I too focused on what other people think? I don't think so, but I guess it's possible. When Nayuta said that to her, Mizuki instantly came to mind. Azusa didn't always worry too much about what Mizuki thought or felt, did she? Well, actually she did. There was a time, once, when she had done exactly that, and look what happened then. Professor Kiriyama, why did you take this job? It was something that had happened during the summer holidays last year, a question Azusa had asked her instructor at the Juku. Why in the world had she said a thing like that? The instructor, whom Mizuki had hated, was a mild-mannered man. He has no ambition and doesn't care about his job, Mizuki said, fuming. Our parents pay for us to be there, and it's not cheap. We make the effort to be there for class, and we depend on the instructors to teach us. I think it's weird for him to act like it's such a chore. I won't stand for that kind of attitude in class. When she heard from someone that he liked to draw, she was dismissive. A teacher should love teaching. Anything else is weird. Just like at school, Mizuki was the center of attention at the Juku as well, and none of her friends there would dare disagree with her. So on that day, when Mizuki said everyone should tell the teacher face-to-face that he should rethink his classroom attitude, nobody tried to stop it, and a group of students surrounded Kiriyama. Azusa was among them, as usual. The group was having fun, laughing as they imagined the look on their teacher's face when they confronted him, but once they were actually standing before Kiriyama, and he asked them what the matter was in his kind voice, they faltered. Although they generally agreed with Mizuki, none of them were seriously concerned about the classwork. They were just going along with her for the fun of it. In truth, Azusa liked Kiriyama's classes. Although he wasn't as upbeat as some of the other instructors and didn't tell jokes or anything like that, his careful and deliberate teaching style suited Azusa well. But she couldn't say anything like that to Mizuki. She had never even considered going against Mizuki ever. So once Kiriyama was there in front of them, everyone exchanged nervous looks. Azusa was just thinking that it would probably be best for everyone concerned if they didn't go through with it and left things as they were, when there was a whisper in her ear. It was Kanako. Sometimes you should speak up, Azusa. It's lame to spend all your time hiding in Mizuki's shadow. Startled, Azusa turned to see Kanako's malicious grin. I don't hide in Mizuki's shadow." She was about to say as much, but then it occurred to her that some of their other friends might feel the same way, so she shut her mouth. After all, I'm Mizuki's oldest friend, and she does look after me, so nobody would openly attack me, but still. Azusa thought, it wouldn't be strange if that bothered them. And maybe Mizuki too. How could Azusa say for sure that any of them didn't think so? Even Mizuki might be annoyed with me. The thought of that really scared her, and before she knew it, she had opened her big mouth. "This class is no fun at all, and you're not even trying. It feels like you're just here for the paycheck." For a moment, the girls were all in a flutter. Azusa usually just stood by quietly, an accessory to Mizuki, but now she was lighting the fire. Then, as if a switch was turned on, they all began attacking Kiriyama, criticizing him about this or that. Azusa heaved a deep sigh of relief as Mizuki patted her on the back. "Way to go, Azusa. You said everything I wanted to say, just like my oldest friend should." Mizuki congratulated her happily, and Azusa smiled back at her awkwardly, thinking, well, obviously. Don't I always? Kiriyama looked shocked for a moment, but then laughed. "I'll try to be more careful in the future." His response was gentle as always, and he saw them off in the usual way, saying, "Get home safely." Everyone seemed a little bit bored after that, but Azusa was deeply relieved. Good. It wasn't a big thing. She started to feel as if what she had said wasn't so serious after all. But then Kiriyama quit his job and left the Juku. The other teachers said it had something to do with a family matter, but Azusa thought that was unlikely. She was almost positive Kiriyama left because of their critical comments. And the person who made that happen was me and nobody else. I changed Kiriyama's life. When she said so to Mizuki, full of remorse, the latter replied, "I'm glad you did. We did the right thing then, and you said the right thing. I don't feel the least bit guilty about any of it." But she couldn't stop asking herself questions. Why did Kanako's words goad me on like that? Why didn't I try to stop Mizuki from saying we should talk to Kiriyama? Azusa thought Mr. Kiriyama was a relatively good teacher, and if she had said so, things might have gone differently. There was a sudden noise, and Azusa snapped out of her reverie. She looked round. The boy with the video game had finished his meal and was getting ready to go. He quickly disposed of his rubbish and then took off. Listlessly, Azusa stared at the table in front of her. There was the cake parfait, now warm and soggy. She had been so excited to eat it, but suddenly she had lost her appetite. She dumped the remains in a plastic bag and stuffed it in the bin. The following Tuesday, Azusa saw Nayuta at Tenderness again. This time, Nayuta was there first, and she was drinking unsweetened sparkling water. She said hello before Azusa could speak. "Oh, hi," Azusa responded. Nayuta hadn't come to school since the previous Friday. The teacher had said it was due to a cold, but Nayuta didn't look the slightest bit unwell, sitting there sipping her soda water. She was dressed lightly in a t-shirt and knee-length shorts. The dine-in space was empty aside from the two of them. Nayuta was in a seat at one end of the counter by the window. Azusa sat at the opposite end. While she was taking the treats from her bag, she thought for a moment, then said, "You haven't been in school." I've been busy, Nayuta replied and shrugged. I don't have time for school. She hiccuped a little from the soda water and Azusa gave her a sidelong glance. She looked a little bit tired. Azusa wanted to ask why, but thought better of it. Instead, she asked, "Do you want some of my strawberry eclairs?" Huh. Nayuta responded dully. I got the Tenderness petit eclairs, Azusa continued. There are 4. We could split them if you want. See? Azusa showed her the eclairs, covered with pink chocolate and neatly arranged in a spacious box. She laughed. Nayuta was silent for a moment, then mumbled, "One is plenty. Sweets aren't really my thing." Oh, I wondered about that. Because you're always sugar-free. But these eclairs aren't all that sweet, so try one. She opened the box and beckoned Yuta over to the adjacent seat. Suddenly happy without knowing why, Azusa held out the box of eclairs with a smile. Thank you, said Nayuta softly, taking one. She took a bite and said, "It's really sweet, but it's good." She gave Azusa a kind look. I heard it's good to eat sweet things when you're tired. Nayuta, you seem a little tired. Nayuta's eyes opened just a little wider. You think so? She asked. Azusa bit into her own eclair. Your eyes are bleary, she replied. My mom gets like that around the eyes when she's tired. I hadn't noticed, Nayuta said quietly. There was something soft and tired in her voice and face. In school lately, she had always had a severe look about her. This was probably because there had been such a tense, unsociable atmosphere in class, Azusa had thought, but she wondered now if there wasn't some bigger reason. Still, Nayuta probably wouldn't tell her about it even if she asked. So Azusa offered her another eclair instead. They're delicious, aren't they? Have one more. Another? One was enough for me. There won't be enough for you, Higaki. That's okay. I also got a milk pudding. You really do like sweets, don't you? Well, if you're sure you don't mind. Nayuta reached for a second eclair. I never thought they'd taste this good, she said with a hint of shyness. Azusa laughed. After eating the second eclair and finishing her sparkling water, Nayuta said, well, break time is over, and stood up. It's nice to do this sort of thing sometimes, isn't it? Thanks for sharing with me, Higaki. Please don't worry about it. Nayuta tossed the soda bottle into the rubbish bin. Watching her from behind, Azusa hesitated briefly, then asked, Is coming here a break for you? Nayuta turned to face her, and Azusa quickly added, If you don't want to talk about it, that's okay, too. Nayuta looked at her for a moment, then nodded. Yes, a break. Mom says that if I don't take a break and get some fresh air, I'm going to come undone. You really have to work that hard? Nayuta's face hardened. But then after a bit, she nodded. But it's something I want to do, so it's good. Nayuta spoke so fervently that it was almost as if she was taking an oath. Azusa couldn't ask anything else after that. She felt like it would be too rude to pry. Then I hope you do your best. That was all she could say, Azusa thought. If you need to take breaks like this, it must be a tough job. Just don't push yourself too hard, okay? Well, anyway, I'll be here at the same time next Tuesday. Come have another cake with me. Azusa didn't think she could do much to help, but she made the offer anyway. Nayuta stared at Azusa as if she had just seen something unbelievable, then a shy smile escaped her. Azusa was stunned. Thank you. Well, see you Tuesday, I guess. With a slight wave of her hand, Nayuta left. Thinking of that smile, Azusa broke into a little smile of her own. The following week, and then the week after that too, Azusa met Nyuta at Tenderness on Tuesdays, and together they ate cake. The Springtime Strawberry series disappeared from the display case, only to be replaced by early summer specialties, sour orange parfait and fresh loquat fruit jellies. Nyuta appeared less and less often at school, her features always veiled with tiredness. But when she saw Azusa, she would smile, however faintly, and together they would eat their treats. Higaki, you really like sweets, don't you? Yes, I do. Today they were sampling the new Featherlight Cream Puffs. In addition to the two of them, the dine-in space was also hosting a bearded man in heavy work clothes. He was plowing through a bento dinner with gusto. Azusa had her back to the man, and she herself had a mouthful of cream puff. Do you go to other sweet shops? Nayuta asked her, or cafes. Majiko was a popular tourist destination and featured a variety of bakeries and candy stores. Azusa shook her head no. She frowned briefly and then laughed. My mother says I can't go there alone until I'm in high school, Azusa explained. She'd been told it was okay to go places together with Mizuki, but now that snacks had been banned, that was an impossibility. There were mountains of things she wanted to try, fruit parfaits, pancakes of all sorts, and so on. But for now, at least, she had had to give them all up. Convenience store sweets are delicious, though, so I don't really mind. Also, I especially love the sweets here at Tenderness. The Tenderness sweets were delicious, both the regular ones that they carried all year long and the seasonal specials. Azusa thought that the seasonal fruit series, in particular, was a collection of masterpieces. And to be able to eat things of that quality at a convenience store. It was so, well, convenient. It was more than enough, so how could she complain? Besides, Azusa looked down and silenced herself. After some hesitation, she said, as if confessing, actually, when I grow up, I'd like to work at Tenderness. You want to work at a convenience store? Nayuta asked, in a tone of some disbelief. Well, not exactly. I want to do, what do they call it? Product development for Tenderness. I want to work in the dessert department there, or something like that. I want to make the best cakes. Ever since kindergarten, Azusa had dreamed of becoming a pastry chef. The first thing she remembered writing was an essay about building a shop that looked like a gingerbread house. Her dream was well known both to her parents and to Mizuki as well. But now Azusa was beginning to think she might not even need her own shop. That's good. At those simple words, Azusa looked over at Nayuta, who was nodding in admiration, a little cream stuck to the corner of her mouth. It's very good, I think. That means all the Tenderness stores throughout Kyushu will be yours, won't they, Higaki? Azusa said, that's right. Her face brightened. She never thought anyone would understand her plans so readily. Without thinking about it, she leaned forward. It would be good to put a lot of work into building a single store that was my own, but, convenience stores would also be good. I really look forward to tasting the treats here every week the way we do. I want to make sweets that those sorts of people like me, Can't wait to try. This was the first time Azusa had shared her dream, the outlines of which were just starting to become clear to her, with anyone. She couldn't help but be happy to receive such a positive response. Seeing her so pleased, Nayuta smiled. It's good that you have a dream, Higaki. There was something lonely about that smile. How about you, Nayuta? Don't you have a dream? Azusa asked. Nayuta frowned and said, For now, I can't think of one. I'm pushing myself to the limit right now, just trying to deal with what's right in front of me, so I can't think at all about what comes next. Hands rubbing her cheeks and speaking tentatively, Nayuta didn't seem at all her regular self. Azusa thought now might be the time to ask her what had been going on. She waited a moment, and then when it seemed right, she asked, Nayuta? It seems like you're working awfully hard on something now. What's going on? Nayuta's expression clouded. Oh hey, I'm sorry, Azusa added quickly. Apparently it had been a bad time to ask, after all. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But Nayuta shook her head. It's okay, Higaki, Nayuta said in a weak voice. You're easy to talk to, so I can tell you. Actually, to be honest, I've been thinking I really want to tell someone about it. She sighed, then continued. Actually, I'm pretty wiped out. Even though it was my decision in the first place, I'm not really any good at it. The truth is, what are you doing? Azusa and Nayuta trembled in shock at the sound of the icy voice. Standing in the doorway was Mizuki. She strode over to Azusa and roughly struck the half-eaten cream puff from her hand. Then she slapped her on the cheek. The noise echoed through the small room. Sneaking around behind my back? Mizuki hissed. That's as low as it gets. Azusa was simply dumbfounded. Now Mizuki turned to Nayuta and lowered her voice. And you, Taguchi. She addressed her by her last name. You skip school day after day, and then you have the nerve to come here with Azusa and just sit around eating cake? Well, you can do what you want, I don't care, but do me a favor and don't go dragging other people into it. It's a real pain. Azusa stared at Mizuki's angry profile, hand pressed to her cheek where she had been slapped. Why was Mizuki here? She had a strange feeling she knew, and let her gaze stray past Mizuki through the window to the answer. She bit her lip. There, standing in the corner of the car park, was Kanako. Kanako told you. Azusa said, half to herself. Mizuki shot her a look. Yes, Kanako told me. That you were sneaking off to meet Taguchi. And that you were having all sorts of fun gossiping about us. We were just eating cakes together. Is that against the rules? Nayuta didn't mince her words, but Mizuki just laughed at her scornfully. Obviously. You're not even coming to school. And when you do show up, you disrupt the atmosphere and then act like you don't even care. A person like that has no excuse to be hanging out in a place like this. It's strange you think you can dodge all your responsibilities and then claim all the privileges anyway. Mizuki didn't stop there, but instead continued speaking at a breakneck pace. And on top of that, you're a bad influence on Azusa. She's not the sort of coward who would slip away from me and her parents to go off and eat cake somewhere, so the fact that she's doing it is evidence enough of that. As far as the gossip is concerned, I'm sure it was a one-way street from your mouth to Azusa's ears. So I'm sorry, but please leave her alone. Her tirade complete, Mizuki turned to Azusa. Okay, We're leaving now. She grabbed her wrist and gave it a tug. For your sake, I'll look the other way just this once. I don't want to have to tell Auntie Michio about the snacks. Come on now, let's go. Her wrist was in a vice grip, her cheek burning. Even from this far away, Azusa could see the nasty grin plastered across Kanako's face. It was an ugly look. Mizuki herself was still angry, and behind her, Nayuta just looked sad. Mizuki's barking voice was still echoing in her ears. It was too much. Azusa shook off Mizuki's hand. I'm with Nayuta because I want to be Mizuki, Azusa said quietly. I can't do what you're telling me to do. What? Did you not hear what I said? Mizuki, you need to apologize to Nayuta. Apologize for saying she's a bad influence. I invited her to join me because I like her. Azusa knew her voice was shaking. She had never talked back to Mizuki before, and she had certainly never imagined asking her to apologize. Mizuki, for her part, was equally confounded and gave her a long, hard look as if trying to determine the true identity of the person talking to her. Without breaking eye contact, Azusa said once more, Apologize, Mizuki. Take your fight outside. The deep voice came from the man who had been eating his lunch so happily earlier. He picked up the cream puff, which had fallen to the floor, and said, Take all that outside. There are other customers here. He gestured towards the side door with his chin, tossing the cream puff in the bin. The man called Old Red had appeared in the doorway. The three girls stared at him. Now, friends, he said with a mischievous look on his face. No fighting, no biting. All you need is love. Outside, I said. The man who had thrown out the cream puff flapped his arms as if he were shooing away flies. Mizuki was the first to move. I'm done looking after you, since you won't let me anyway. She stormed out the door and raced past Kanako, who hurried after her, while Azusa watched through the window, stunned. I'm sorry. Nayuta apologized to the man, and he turned to her. It's a public place. Keep that in mind, he said calmly, and left it at that before turning to the other man. Hey, Old Red, it's about time you got here. Or actually, you should have stopped them a while ago. The man spoke as if he knew him well. Entering the room, Old Red replied lightly, If I'd done that, those girls would be crying now. He turned to Azusa. You okay, Missy? He asked, as if he had been watching the whole interaction from somewhere. You took a real smack on the cheek, didn't you? You weren't about to let her get away with that a second time, were you? His raucous laughter roused Azusa from her daze. Nayuta, too, peered at her face and asked, Are you okay? Oh, Nayuta. I'm sorry, Azusa stammered. About Mizuki, I mean. There's nothing to apologize about, Higaki. But are you okay? Talking to Murai like that? Nayuta spoke worriedly, thinking about the way Mizuki had run off. You shouldn't have tried to protect me. Azusa's whole body began to shake. She felt like her heart was beating at twice the usual rate. Now I've really done it, she thought. By tomorrow, she would have lost her comfortable spot at school and at the Juku, and become a target for Mizuki's attacks. Thank you. Nayuta took Azusa's trembling hand. She wrapped it in her own, slightly hardened hands. Thank you for sticking up for me before. It made me happy. Nayuta, who never wavered anywhere, anytime, even in the face of the most malicious attacks, was looking at her with tears in her eyes. Azusa started to believe that she had made the right choice. She had finally taken a path that didn't lead to regret. I'm really sorry, Azusa, but I can't go back to school yet. So you might be on your own. No, it's all right. I'll be okay. I acted of my own free will, Azusa thought. She tried to smile at Nayuta, but somehow it didn't come out properly. It just looked like her mouth was twisted upwards at the corners. If you can get through your hard time, Nayuta, then I think I can get through mine. Well, Oh, that's me. Nayuta wiped her tears and pulled her phone from her pocket. She looked at the screen and her face changed hue. She quickly pressed the button to take the call. Hello, Mom? Uh-huh. Yes, I understand. I'm coming now. After hanging up, Nayuta lowered her head. Sorry, she said. I have to go home now. I'm sorry to run out, especially now. Don't worry about it. But what's wrong? Nayuta returned her phone to her pocket and pulled out a bicycle key. She bit her lip tightly, then managed to squeeze out a few words. He's in critical condition, she said. It's my dad. He's got terminal cancer. He said he wanted to be at home with us near the end. So Mom and I are his caregivers, just the two of us. The words were so foreign to Azusa, she had a hard time understanding them. Critical, cancer, terminal, caregivers. She'd read them in books and heard them on television dramas, sure enough, but was Nayuta describing her own father? Anyway, I have to go. Sorry. Nayuta jumped on her bike and left. Suddenly, her recent behavior made a lot more sense to Azusa. Nayuta must have been carrying such a heavy load. It was more than enough to bring anyone to copious tears, wasn't it? Azusa's heart ached to imagine it. She said she looked forward to Tuesdays. A man's voice. The bearded man was standing there, together with Old Red. His voice, half obscured by his beard, seemed kindly somehow, and, strangely enough, Old Red's eyes were a little red too. We're her break buddies, the bearded man continued. When I asked her if she liked having coffee with a couple of old dudes like us, she said what she really looked forward to were the big dessert Tuesdays with her friend. Did you know about her situation? Azusa asked. Well, the man said there's a certain look that people get when they're caring for a sick person. A weariness. It was starting to show through in her face, so I figured maybe his condition wasn't going the way she wanted. I knew, said Old Red, but it wasn't the sort of thing to go jabbering about all over town. The two men sighed heavily. Azusa looked in the direction in which Nayuta had disappeared. I didn't realize at all. At your age, that's the way it is. That's just how it goes. Now it was Azusa's turn to get teary. I am the worst. I didn't know, she didn't tell me. What in the world was that? Nothing but excuses. I sat back and watched while they all attacked her just because her behavior was a little out of the ordinary. And I did nothing to stop it. I sided with Nayuta's bullies. Her stinging cheek and her usual stomach pain were nothing compared to this. Now Azusa was ashamed and angry at herself. It was the pain in her heart that was going to destroy her. At school the next day, it was like Azusa was invisible. She had been totally cut off. In addition, insults were flung at her from all sides, just as had happened with Nayuta. Students who had been perfectly friendly just a day earlier had transformed as if by the flip of a switch and now mocked her to her face. "You've really been getting on my nerves lately," said Kanako loudly, while Mizuki just stood by and watched. Azuma was shocked by how much things had changed, but at the same time, she was prepared for it. She had watched Nayuta endure this treatment for a long while. How could I possibly whine about what I'm going through? Azusa thought. Alone in the classroom, she held her head high and endured. When she thought of Nayuta, her thumping heart would gradually calm down. And then a curious thing happened. Azusa noticed that the stomach pain which had been bothering her for so long had disappeared. "I don't think it will be back," she thought. "I'm okay." Summer holidays started, but there was no news of Nayuta. School was out, which was a plus, but she still had to deal with Mizuki and her followers at the Juku, so her situation was basically unchanged. Mizuki had also spoken to her mother. "Azusa said she's ending our friendship," she had told her, so Michio was in a sour mood. Mizuki cried, "You know. She said she always looked after you, and you betrayed her. And then you slip off behind her back to stuff yourself with snacks. How could you be so cruel?" her mother asked. Azusa had no idea how to explain the situation, so she said nothing, and her own home became an uncomfortable place for her. Even so, Azusa did the best she could day by day. She tried visiting Tenderness, not just on Tuesdays, but also other days of the week, but she never managed to find Nayuta. She did run into the bearded man. His name was Tsugi, she learned, and Old Red, often enough that they began to greet each other in a friendly way. But it seemed neither of them had any recent news about Nayuta. How was she doing? Was she okay? Azusa learned nothing about Nayuta's situation until August, when she and her fellow students returned to their classroom for a midsummer school day. Due to family circumstances, Miss Taguchi has transferred to another school. The classroom had been buoyant, as if it were a floating island in the middle of the summer holidays, and merry voices rang out on all sides. But the words of their homeroom teacher, Professor Fukuwa, introduced a note of gravity, and the class quieted down. Together with her mother, she had been working hard to care for her ailing father. He passed away not long ago, and the two of them have moved to Nagasaki, where her grandparents live. Fukuwa had a daughter in elementary school. Perhaps he had a special feeling for the situation, because the rims of his eyes turned red as he continued. Miss Taguchi said she didn't want to regret missing those moments with her father, so she took time off from school and focused all her efforts on helping him to cope with his illness. "I told her I'd let the class know about her situation so that you would all understand what she has been going through. She didn't want to be pitted. It made her feel weak," she said. Nayuta had cut her hair because it got in the way when she was nursing her father. She insisted on wearing gym clothes for maximum freedom of movement when she was needed at the bedside. Fukuwa quietly relayed all the things that he had kept to himself until that moment, occasionally wiping his face as he spoke. The students sat silently, heads lowered. Only Kanako, seated directly in front of Azusa, kept shifting in her seat, as if trying to make eye contact with Mizuki, who was seated some distance away. Azusa felt as if she were far removed from her body sitting in the classroom, while at the same time, She had to work to hold back the urge to cry. Her thoughts turned to Nayuta, whom she would probably never see again. "I'm so sorry," she thought. "Sorry that instead of helping you, we only added to your pain. I wish I could see you and apologize in person, but I can't even do that. It's so sad." Did you know? Azusa was heading home after dismissal when Mizuki and the others called after her. The group surrounded Azusa, their faces stern and suffocating. "That reminds me," she thought somewhere in the back of her mind, "I also want to apologize to Professor Kiriyama." "What do you want?" Azusa asked. "I'm asking if you knew all this about Taguchi. If you did, shouldn't you have told us?" It wasn't Mizuki, but Kanako who voiced the complaint. "It makes us seem like we're bad people, and there's no way we're going to allow that. What happened to Taguchi is sad and all, but we didn't know the first thing about it, since nobody told us, and how could anyone expect us to guess?" Azusa ignored Kanako, turning instead to Mizuki, who was standing next to her. Mizuki simply glared at her, saying nothing. Azusa accepted her look willingly. "Mizuki, thank you for being such a good friend for so long. I had so many happy times thanks to you. But what you did this time was wrong. Whether you forgive me or not, there are things I had to do for Nayuta's sake." With understanding and kindness, before Azusa could finish her thought, Mizuki slapped her face again. At the sound of the impact, the corner of Kanako's mouth twitched upwards. Azusa kept her gaze fixed on Mizuki. "You should try to break the habit of acting on your anger that way, when something bothers you. If you don't, the day may come when someone responds in kind, with even more anger or violence." Mizuki lifted her hand a second time, but then just barely managed to restrain herself. Her face contorted, and then, as Azusa watched, she slowly allowed the hand to fall. "Okay, Mizuki," she said, "see you." Azusa slipped between Mizuki and Kanako and was about to leave when Kanako caught her by the shoulder. "Not so fast. We're not done talking yet. If you think making me out to be a bad person will wipe the slate clean for your own guilty conscience, then do as you like." Azusa shook off Kanako's hand, then finally departed. As she walked off, she said quietly to herself, "It's okay. It's okay." Her heart was racing and her legs were shaking in a way she hoped nobody noticed. It felt as though if she let her guard down for even a second, she'd collapse on the spot. In truth, she was scared enough to cry. But she thought of Nyuta and she endured. She had said what she needed to say. "You can't succeed if you don't try," Azusa said to herself and then smiled. Probably Nyuta had done the same to get through her worst moments, one by one. If she can do it, then I'm not giving up either. She stepped out of the school building and looked up at the sky. Tall, cotton candy clouds floated across a bright blue sky. Birds danced across it, looking just as if they were grazing on the candy clouds. "I'd like to taste the blueberry parfait at Tenderness," Azusa said, a sunny note creeping into her voice. Her mood was clearing, just like the sky above her. The autumn specials were arriving in the sweets section at Tenderness. Azusa had continued her customary dessert expeditions there, solo, on Tuesday evenings. Since she had parted ways with Mizuki and her group, Azusa had made a few changes, and various things had happened as a result. For starters, she had changed her mind about high school. Initially, the two mothers were eager for their own daughters to attend the girls' school where they had become such good friends, and Azusa had acted in accordance with their wishes. But now Azusa told her parents she wanted to try out for a more prestigious preparatory academy. Michio was highly opposed. "You need to mend fences with Mizuki as quickly as possible," she groused, but Azusa's father supported her ambitious plan. He insisted that parents shouldn't limit their children's opportunities in life, so now Azusa was studying frantically to gain admission. Rather than maintaining a parallel track to Mizuki and the others, it seemed they were drifting further and further apart. Apparently, the girls had expected a hasty apology from Azusa, but she simply continued to attend school as usual, unruffled by anything they might say to her. As the days mounted up, Mizuki became more and more irritated, and when she learned that Azusa was applying to a different high school, she confronted her. "You're trying to run away from me," Mizuki said accusingly, but Azusa shook her head. "I'm just trying to walk my own path instead of one that someone else chose for me." Then, for the first time, Mizuki cried openly. Afterwards, she began to act as if Azusa wasn't even there. She led an isolated life at school, but recently some of the children had begun to speak to her. "I got embarrassed that I was always watching you from far away and never saying anything," one person said, and it made her happy. Azusa rolled up to the bike rack at Tenderness, dismounted, and headed for the dessert section as usual. When she saw the lineup of sweet potato desserts, her face lit up. After a brief struggle, she settled on a baked sweet potato tart and a sweet potato cream puff, along with her usual flavored milk, of course. She was checking out at the register when the store manager, who usually avoided any unnecessary interactions, called out to her. "Excuse me," he said. "Thank you for shopping with us so often." "Oh, sure. This may seem a little out of the blue, but might I ask you to wait a little bit before eating your pastry?" His syrupy voice sent a shiver down Azusa's spine. The boys in her class were always hooting and hollering in the most childish ways, and usually seemed more or less like monkeys to her. Was it possible they would grow up to give off this kind of strange appeal? No, she thought. Definitely not. Wait a little? But why? Azusa wasn't sure where this was headed. The store manager frowned slightly and made a gesture as if he were searching for the right words. Even such an insignificant motion as that was compelling, performed by him. Azusa watched, thinking absent-mindedly, so this is what it means to furrow one's brow. She had looked it up online, but never really understood it. Well, that is, do you know the man with the beard? Not Old Red, but the other one, the man with the light green coveralls. Oh, you must mean Sugi. What about him? He left a message that he wanted to have dessert with you. He should be arriving at any minute. It was a little out of the ordinary, but Azusa nodded. It was good to eat with someone else once in a while. She paid for her treats and went to the dine-in space. Taking a seat at the counter, she cast her gaze out the window. The leaves in the trees along the roadside were changing their colors to match the season. Old Red passed by on his ever-present red cargo bike, probably on his way to distribute his tourist brochures. Noticing Azusa, he waved, and she waved back at him. About 10 minutes passed, Then a mini truck pulled into the car park. She could see the logo on the back of Tsugi's coveralls, whatever guy. He caught sight of Azusa and waved at her. Azusa started to wave back, but then gasped in shock. She couldn't believe her eyes. In a flash, she hopped off the stool and was out the door. "No, it can't be," she shouted as she ran. Tumbling out of the passenger seat of Tsugi's mini truck was none other than Nayuta. "Higaki, it's been a long time." Nayuta was smiling from ear to ear. Azusa pounced on her and wrapped her in a tight embrace. "But how?" "Nayuta, what are you doing here?" "I thought you moved to Nagasaki." "I hitched a ride with the whatever guy." Nayuta seemed a little sturdier than when they had parted. She had a healthy glow in her cheeks as she gave Tsugi a grateful look. "I found him when he was working in Nagasaki and asked him," she explained. "I felt really awful about what happened the last time I saw you, Higaki. I needed to talk to you. So I asked him to bring me here. It wasn't easy, you know," Tsugi said with a wry shrug. "A funny-looking guy like me, running around with a middle school girl? I needed proof of identification, and then, of course, I had to keep in regular contact on the job. Which reminds me." Tsugi took out a phone and snapped a quick photo of Azusa and Nayuta hugging. "Arrived safely without incident," he muttered to himself as he texted. Apparently, he was sending the photo to Nayuta's mother. "Sorry, Mr. Tsugi, but I really needed to see her." "No big deal. It's my job," Tsugi responded matter-of-factly. Just looking at the two of them standing there, Azusa felt like crying, but she didn't know why. This happy face, this voice without a trace of grief. She felt like she was seeing the real Nyuta for the first time. "Hey, Higaki." Nyuta smiled at Azusa. "I've wanted to thank you all this time. I really looked forward to our Tuesday meetings. When we saw each other and had our treats, it always made me feel like I might somehow find a way to get through it all. And the truth is, I did." As Nayuta spoke, her eyes filled with tears. "You didn't make me talk about everything, Higaki. You were just there with me. You shared so many sweet things with me. That one gesture was so much help, so that I could see my father off without any regrets. Thank you." Nayuta trailed off as her tears finally began to overflow. Azusa hugged her once more. "Thank you too, Nayuta. Being with you made me stronger. I've also been working hard to do my best without giving up. Ever since then, my very best." Still wrapped in her embrace, Nayuta nodded, and before she knew it, Azusa was crying as well, and for a time the two of them just held each other. Then they arranged themselves at the window counter seats and ate their sweets, just as they used to do. Thanks to Azusa, Nayuta seemed to have developed a real sweet tooth. Delicious, she laughed through a mouthful of sweet potato tart. Azusa laughed as well, happy to see her carefree smile. "I haven't got used to school in Nagasaki yet. When I'm unhappy or if I get lonely, I always try to go to a Tenderness store. I buy something sweet and eat it, and it feels like I'm together with you, Higaki. Isn't that strange?" Nayuta rubbed her face with embarrassment. Azusa didn't think it was strange at all. "Me too," she replied. "While I was eating, I kept thinking about what you would say at a time like this." "So we're the same, right?" the two girls said simultaneously, then laughed. It was good to know that even while they were apart, They had each been thinking of the other. Remember when you told me before that you wanted to develop products for Tenderness? I said I thought that was fine, but now I really, really want you to do it, Nayuta said. Then if anything bad happens, I can always go to a Tenderness store somewhere, eat the cakes that you made, and I'll always feel better. As long as there's Tenderness, there will be somewhere we can meet. Azusa took Nayuta's heartfelt words and tucked them away, deep in her heart, as if they were jewels in a treasure chest. She was sure she'd pull them out time and again in the days to come. She felt it. I'll do it for sure. I'm going to make sweets, the kind that will give strength to someone who's struggling. In that case, I want you to focus a little more on Japanese sweets. A deep voice broke in from the side, and when the two of them spun round, there was Tsugi, laughing. I like Japanese sweets, he continued. I wish they'd do more of those, like ohagi and dango. Of course, Azusa exclaimed. Japanese sweets. Oh, said Nayuta. My mother likes Japanese sweets too. She does? Well, I'll do my best. After that, Azusa and Nayuta enjoyed their cakes together, unable to stop smiling at each other. As long as the Tenderness chain was there, as long as they continued to visit it, they'd always be connected, no matter how far apart they were. This they believed with all their hearts. Higaki, Nayuta said. Next time, you should come to Nagasaki. You can stay at our house. I'd love to go. Azusa replied. I'll ask Mr. Tsugi to take me. Now, wait just a second. I can't play substitute parent every time you call. Azusa laughed out loud for the first time in a long while.